welcome to the behind the scenes of Mainline video. Now, as you can see, I've put a little Mainline background up, especially for the occasion. Now, I'm going to start with pre-production, which makes sense, and then work my way through. Now, pre-production obviously starts with the writing, which is a complicated process of drafting, redrafting, and showing it to people, etc, etc, etc. But that's quite boring. So, let's say I've done that, and we're going to move on. And what we're going to move on to is the point where the actors first get together, and that's the read-through.
The script still needs some work, doesn't it?
So what we did before the read-through is we gathered together, and we put up a big tent outside, we made a bit of a day of it, we had some food, and then we got down to it and read through the script. And that's pretty much it really. It was a nice laugh, bit of fun, and that's it. What we're going on to now is a thing we did with Gareth and Philippa, where we did a bit of a warm-up, got them to do some silly things in front of camera, just to sort of lighten the mood, and we also did some hot seating where we asked them some questions about their characters, and I think that was useful and fun, as you'll see. And go la 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 a wimboy, 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 a wimboy. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. Right, hello and welcome to the production section of this video. Now, what I'm going to do with this is, rather than concentrating on the technical aspects, I'm going to tell a couple of stories from production, which I think kind of sum up the Mainline experience. And the two stories for me that do that are first cars. The mic that we used on Mainline is in fact the one I'm using now, and it's excellent for indoors. It's stereo sound, it's wide angle, it was an expensive one. I splashed out and spent a lot of money on it. It's very nice. One small problem, because it's wide angle, when it's outside it picks up all the noise. So when a car would go past, the audio would just be awful. So there's an awful lot of clips of us going, car, car, wait for the car, 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 so much so that it made it into the blooper reel. And that for me is something that I think a lot of people will remember. And the second thing is the terrorism incidents, the best way I think I can describe them. And that came about because we were filming in city centres, which required permission to film in. Now, permissions don't quite work as you might expect them to work. We filmed in Birmingham International train station thanks to Virgin Trains, which you would expect would be a nightmare. You expect tight security measures and all that sort of thing. But no, they were really nice about it. I have to say thank you, Virgin Trains. You are wonderful, wonderful people. And that was dead easy. But city centre, which you would have thought would be a lot easier, was an absolute nightmare. Trying to get... it just went backwards and forwards, and they wanted this, and then they didn't want that, but they wanted something else, and they didn't talk to each department, so the CCTV people didn't know we were there, and the security guards didn't know we were there. The upshot of which is that quite often the security guard will come over and challenge us. Now, it's actually quite an odd situation in Coventry, because normally you'd expect a city centre to be run by the council and, you know, to be owned collectively by the citizens of Coventry. This is not the case in Coventry. It's run by a company called CV1, who basically own it on a long-term lease, which is slightly weird and worrying, but whatever. The point is that it's not police policing it, it's security guards. Now, police are often dealing with real crime and aren't too concerned about a small group of middle-class teenagers filming, but security guards obviously have a lot more time on their hands, and so they are concerned about that sort of thing. So they would come up and talk to us. Now, the thing was that they'd have to come up and challenge us, but they'd challenge us telling us that we might be terrorists. Now, there's a few problems with this. Firstly, I'd like to know what terrorists go around with a massive big camera on a tripod with a microphone in a group of about 10 people, and these 10 people are these middle-class teenagers that I mentioned earlier. And then they do the same lines over and over again. I'm not sure in what way that could be ever terrorism. I would have thought the closest that terrorists would get would be maybe filming a planned route on a mobile phone, which is nice and inconspicuous. As far as I'm aware, terrorists aren't trying to get the attention of the authorities. But I could be wrong. But the thing that made this even more wonderful is that we didn't have a wind muffler for our microphone, so we were using a large pink sock. So if you can imagine these poor security guards coming up and saying, "I'm terribly sorry, but you might be terrorists," and you could tell they were a bit sort of hesitant to say this because it was so obviously nonsense. So that was entertaining, and that happened a lot during filming. And for me, that's the other big story. So I hope that gives you a bit of an insight into what it was like. And now we're going to go on to post-production. What I'm going to do in this section is just look at editing. And what I use for editing is this program called Adobe Premiere. I use Adobe Premiere Elements because it's a lot cheaper than the full version. The full version is £200. This one is a lot less, like 60 or 70, something like that. Now, it's an excellent program. It crashes a bit too much, but other than that, it's very good. And what I'm going to show you today is one of the tricks we used on Mainline that we haven't used anywhere else, which I think is kind of an interesting point. I'm not going to go over the finer points of editing because I think that's quite dull. Hopefully this won't be too dull, but we'll find out. Right, now the image that's appearing on your screen right now is me and Cressy having a conversation. Now this is the original rushes. And then what I'm going to show you is what I did to that, because we filmed it during the day, but because of another shot we wanted to put it as more of a nighttime thing. What you can do with any clip is you can go to the effects menu, which I don't know whether you can see what I'm doing. And there's various different effects in here. A fun one is lightning. So you can see there's now lightning flying across the screen. It's a fun effect, we use that in various things. And there's various other things you can do, like you can make it look sepia, old film, you can't really see that. And you can use blue screen effects and all that kind of thing. What we are here to do today is lighting effect. Now you'll notice that straight away the whole thing goes a little bit dark and we've got a spotlight in there. And all I did for the lighting effects for this scene was to move that light so it was between me and Cressy, so it looked like a light coming down from above us. And now you should be able to see what that looked like in the final scene. So that's a little bit of an introduction to Adobe Premiere. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Rolling.
And action.
Loving the spotted monster look. Especially when we know that the great idea is the charming and debonair colleague called Jason.
I can always cut around the rubbish.
Man, you're going to do a lot of
that with no film. Right.
He's laughing, that character's laughing, you fool!
That sounds really funny. There's a really, really nice shot of Pip's expression every time, and you in the background, so you just go. Absolutely brilliant every time. Makes me chuckle. Very sad.
Are they scared, do you reckon?
If you dare ask me whether it makes you look fat or not, I will have to slap you.
Cut!